Welcome to my channel. I hope that you will be fine. When you look at the map, you will see different kinds of weird borders. Some will be clearly defined, while others will have a really unnatural look. In this video you will find these weird borders. Let's start. This was probably the most complex border ever. However, the two governments solved the issue with a swap of territories between the two countries back in 2016. At one point in time, the border between India and Bangladesh accounted for 80% of the world's total enclaves. 106 Indian enclaves were located in Bangladesh, while 92 enclaves of Bangladesh were located in India. 24 of these enclaves were counter-enclaves, and this border was also home to the world's only third-order enclave. This tiny piece of land was a territory of India, inside an enclave of Bangladesh, which was inside an enclave of India at the territory of Bangladesh. This one is a really complicated one and will certainly tickle your brain. The village of Nawa is a part of the UAE surrounded by the Omani territory of Mada, which is also surrounded by UAE territory. This makes Nawa one of only 3 counter-exclaves in the world. Imagine, these people have to cross 2 borders just to enter their own country. Oman also has another exclave in the Musandam Peninsula. So imagine if you're traveling by road from mainland Oman to Musandam. The shortest road leads through these exclaves. You would have to enter UAE, then Oman again, then the UAE again through Nawa, then Oman again, Mada, and the UAE again, and to enter one last time in Oman to reach the Musandam Peninsula. If you look at Afghanistan's map, you will notice this small stretch of land that resembles a human appendix. That's the Wakhan Corridor, and it's been a part of Afghanistan since the days of the Great Game. The Wakhan Corridor separates Tajikistan from Pakistan. It doesn't make a lot of sense today, but in the 19th century, Tajikistan was part of the Russian Empire, and Pakistan was part of the British Empire. With both empires competing for land, Afghanistan served as a buffer zone. But the territory of Afghanistan didn't exactly match, as the Wakhan Corridor wasn't part of the country at the time. That's why both empires decided to give up on small pieces of land and give it to Afghanistan to completely separate the two territories. This list of weird borders couldn't be complete without the border between Egypt. The two clearly share a border, but apparently, no one really knows where is it. Both countries have different claims on the map, and they both claim rights to the sovereignty of the Hotel Arbez triangle. However, there's also Bertal, which is a piece of land unclaimed by both countries. The catch is none of them want to claim Bertal, because if they do, they would have to give up on the much more desired Hotel Arbez triangle. The dispute goes back to 1899, before Sudan was even a country. It was actually a dispute between Egypt and the British Empire. The border first created in 1899 is the border that Egyptians claim today. However, just like they did with a lot of other countries, the British drew a new line on the map. They called it the administrative boundary, which is the border that Sudan claims today. Colonization brought several new weird borders in Africa, and the Caprivi Strip that stretches 450 kilometers in Botswana is certainly one of them. The Caprivi Strip has been named after the German Chancellor Leo von Caprivi. He wanted the border of the then German colony to cross the Zambezi River so Germans could use it to navigate to the eastern coast of Africa. In a treaty with Great Britain, the Germans gave up on any rights to claim Zanzibar in exchange for this tiny stretch of land today known as the Caprivi Strip. Even more, if you look at Africa's ethnic map, you will see that this strip covers numerous different ethnic groups that speak different languages. Of course, they weren't taken into any consideration when this border was created. Just one thing. Did I mention that the Zambezi River has some of the largest waterfalls and is practically not navigable? Hence, this whole move was practically useless. The biggest land border between the two countries in the world looks really boring when you look at the map. But that's not the case at all. The border was created in the 18th century by carving a 6 meters wide space along the border. For 8,800 kilometers. The border that passes entirely through lush forests looks like a straight line on the map. But it's not. If it was, it would surely be the longest stretch of deforested land in the world by far. But both countries wanted the border to be a straight line. Well, imagine we're in the 18th century and the 49th parallel was just chosen for the national border. But, someone needs to actually mark this area between Minnesota and Manitoba with a compass and a bowl of strain. And don't mind the bears and wolves that might come in the way. The man who did this sure did their best in the pre-GPS era, but the border still consists of 900 zigzag lines. Not one giant straight line like many people think. However, this border is another proof that you cannot just draw a straight line on the map without causing a huge mess. Located just south of Vancouver, this town only remained a part of the US because the negotiators couldn't see it on the map. Today, Point Roberts is completely isolated from the rest of the US. Hispaniola Island was the first place where Columbus's crew set foot on. Decades later, the island has been divided by the Spanish and the French and today is divided into two different countries, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The border is visible from the air with Dominican lush forest obviously separated from the rest of the island. But this border isn't on this list just because of the fact that its border looks unique. It's also here because it's home to two small, completely different nations, with the wealthy, beautiful Dominican Republic with many tourist facilities and things to do on one side, and the poor, undeveloped Haiti on the other side. Actually, the French wanted to turn their colony, Saint-Domingue, into a purely economic producer. They brought in a lot of slaves and completely extracted most of the resources that their side of the island had. The Spanish people, on the other hand, massacred the indigenous people on their side of the island, took control, and ruled peacefully, mixing with the local people. There are two small islands in the Bering Strait between the USA and Russia known as the Diomedes. The small Diomede belongs to the USA and has 146 inhabitants, and the big Diomede belongs to Russia and is uninhabited. The distance between the two is only 2.5 miles, less than 4 kilometers, which makes swimming from Russia to the US completely possible. You can actually swim your way from the USA all the way to Russia. The surprising factor, however, is that the time difference between these two small islands is 23 hours. The small distance between the two islands allows the citizens of the small Diomede to literally take a look in the future, as the big Diomede is literally one day ahead on the calendar. This is one of the most complex weird borders in the world. However, both of the countries are a part of the EU, so the border is technically non-existent. It's about the Dutch municipality of Barle-Nassau and the Belgian municipality of Barle-Hertog. In total, there are 22 Belgian enclaves in the Netherlands and 8 Dutch enclaves in Belgium, 7 of which are counter-enclaves. The craziest part is that the border passes through just about anything. Starting from the streets, cafes, next-door neighbors, and shops. You can even legally park your vehicle in 2 different countries at the same time. But that's not all, the border even passes between houses. Hence, some people wake up in Belgium and have their breakfast in the Netherlands, and vice versa. There are several houses in the area that are making lawmakers scratch their heads. The solution that the two countries made was to include houses in the territory of a country according to their front door. Even more interestingly, until recently there was one house in the region that had its door completely divided by the two weird borders that gave the owner no other choice but to relocate his front door. Located in the Baie de Soa River, on the border between Spain and France, Pheasant Island is probably the only island that changes its ownership twice a year. The island is uninhabited and no one is allowed to visit. Pheasant is a part of Spain for 6 months and a part of France for the next 6 months. There's even a ceremony that transfers the sovereignty of the island between the two countries. This began in 1659 when the Treaty of the Pyrenees was signed on this very island. The island was considered neutral ground at the time since it was in the middle of the Baie de Soa that served as a natural border. This was all from it. I hope that you liked this video. Please like, share and subscribe if you are new to my channel. If you have any, tell me in the comments section below. Goodbye.